welcome to Sarah's Stampin' Retreat. Today we're going to be using some different techniques with embossing folders. So we've got a really gorgeous range of embossing folders, and I just wanted to show you some techniques we can use to make the most of them. So today we're going to be using this Parisian Flourish one, we're going to be using the Tasteful Textile, and we're going to be using this greenery. So this greenery one can go through the small embossing machines that just have a small gap through. You would need a machine with plates that are at least 6 inches to put through this one and this one. The other thing to note is that these two are 3D embossing folders and this one's a normal embossing folder. So the plates that you use through your embossing machine will be slightly different depending on which one you use. So then I'll be using a couple of different stamp sets today. I'll be using this Art in Bloom stamp set and this Biggest Wish one, which you know I really love this one. And this one's actually really special because it goes with this hybrid embossing folder. And the reason that it's hybrid is that it's an embossing folder. It also comes with this die set. So this actually comes in the pack with the embossing folder. And so you can add this die into the embossing folder when you emboss. It goes around there like that, so that when you pop it through, it not only embosses but it also cuts the flowers out. And then you've got other dies on there as well. And you can see as well that you can also just die cut the flowers with the coordinating dies. You don't have to use them in the embossing folder. And you can buy the stamps and the embossing folder with the dies all in this Art in Bloom bundle. So we're going to start off with a nice simple card. We're going to do a bit of heat embossing first. So for this one I'm going to use my Biggest Wish stamp set and make a birthday card. So I want my happy and my birthday, and you can see that you can use that happy with that birthday, that happy with that birthday, or you can use kind of like fonts together. But I'm going to use the blocky happy with the kind of scripty birthday. So I'm just going to place those on here where I want them, because I'm going to pick them up with the block together and then I can stamp them down together. I can make sure then that I've got the layout that I want. So I'm just going to pick those up on my block, and then I'm just going to use my embossing buddy on here. I'm going to use my Versamark ink just to ink that up. Just make sure you've got it all over. And I'm going to pop that on my, this is a piece of Evening Evergreen cardstock. And the Evening Evergreen piece measures 2 3/4 inches square. So I'm just going to pour on some gold embossing powder. So I'm just going to use my heat gun just to heat that up. Then we've got that nice gold font on there. And then I'm going to use the Parisian Flourish 3D embossing folder for this one. So I'm not going to show you the actual embossing on screen because everyone has different die cutting machines and they all use different sandwiches, so I don't want to confuse it. So you need to choose the sandwich on your machine that is for 3D embossing folders. It will normally say in the instructions. Then you want to pop your gold cardstock. So this is a piece of 4 3/4 inch square gold foil sheet, and you want to pop it inside there. You want the Stampin' Up logo on the top. That's how you know that it's the right way up. And then I'm just going to run that through my die cutting machine. The other thing to note is that different brands of embossing folders are slightly different thicknesses, so you may need like a little shim or something. I'd put a piece of cardstock through with mine just to make it thick enough so you get this nice deep emboss. You can see how beautiful that is. And you can see that this embossing really makes our card. Like, it completely lifts it from just being a flat piece of gold cardstock. So I'm going to glue the layers together now. So I'm just gluing that on there. And then normally I would use dimensionals with this, but for today I'm going to use this foam adhesive sheet just because I want it to look really premium, and the card has bowed slightly when I was doing the heat embossing, which is natural when you're doing heat embossing because you're heating the card up. But if I put this on the back, then it's going to give it that bit of rigidity so that it kind of goes really nice and flat again. And you see there's no bowing now, and it'll give it that lift off the page as well. I really love embossing metallic cardstock because it just gives such a lovely finish, and you can really see the detail nicely. I did forget to say, by the way, this is a 5-inch square evening evergreen card blank. So you've got 10 inches by 5 inches scored and folded in half. So that's our first card finished. So then I've got an A6 card blank for my second card, and this is in soft sea foam. So this measures 8 1/4 inches by 5 7/8 inches scored and folded in half. And I'm going to use the greenery embossing folders for this one. I'm just going to take this one, that is this pattern here, and because it's a long thin one, then you can use it to make a panel down the front of your card. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to, when I put this through the die cutting machine, I'm going to put it through like this, because if you put it like that, then you'll dent the back of your card. So you want to put it through like that, and then I'll get this nice pattern as a panel down the front of my card. So now you can see I've got this card with a panel down the front. Actually makes the inside look really pretty as well. So then to decorate my card, I'm going to use these flowers. Then I'm actually going to use these stamps as well to colour the flowers and the leaves. So you can see that the actual stamps are much bigger than they look on the front of the stamp set. You get a lot in this set. So I'm just stamping this in the basic grey ink. And then I'm just going to do 3 leaves as well. And then I'm going to use these to colour the leaves with soft succulent ink. And then the flowers I'm going to do with the petal pink ink. So there's one of these for each flower. So I can cut these flowers out like this, and then you get 2 of these leaf dies. So I can do 2 in the first pass, and then I'll do 1 in the second pass. So then we've got those all cut out, and I'm just going to use one of the sentiments in this. I think this, thanks for making me happy. For these longer sentiments, because they can kind of like get a bit distorted when they go on the stamping block. So I prefer just to line them up on like my workspace first, so that they can kind of like drop in the way they're supposed to, and then I pop my stamping block on them rather than kind of putting it on the stamping block. Then I'm going to use my basic grey ink again, and then I'm just going to pop this along here. It's a really nice font, and I'm just going to go and cut that down. So I've just cut that down, and I've also cut a 1/2-inch strip of basic grey cardstock, and I'm just going to cut those together. So I'm going to cut the ends like this, just do a bit of a diagonal, and then I'm going to do the same at the other end, and then I'm just going to offset it like that. So I'm just going to offset this on here. That's how I want my card to look, so I'm just going to start gluing that in place. I'm going to pop my sentiment up on dimensionals. So I'm going to glue these ones down and just pop that third one up. That's our second card completed. Then for my third card, I've got an A6 Evening Evergreen card blank, and I've got a mat that's 1/4 of an inch smaller made of soft succulent. And I'm going to take this leaf, and I'm also going to take these leaves. I'm going to use the Evening Evergreen ink just to stamp those all over this piece. I'm making sure I stamp them off the side. I'm stamping it at different angles. And I'm going to take this one, I'm going to fill in some of the gaps. And then, just to add a bit more depth, I'm going to take my soft succulent ink and the stamps that fill in the images, and I'm just going to fill those in. And you just need to note that they always come out a little bit darker at first, so you'll see in a second that this ink will fade a bit, and then you'll be able to see the detail a lot better. So you can already see them starting to lighten up a bit, and you can see the detail better on this. And then I'll just fill in the ones with 2 leaves as well. So then we've got this lovely background, but to add even more interest, I'm just going to run it through my die cutting machine in my Tasteful Textile embossing folder. So now you can see I've got this added interest of the tasteful texture on this. Now I'm going to go back to my Biggest Wish stamp set and use the thanks this time. I'm just going to heat emboss that with gold again. And this is just a scrap of Evening Evergreen cardstock I've got here that I'm going to emboss. So I'm just going to cover that with the gold embossing powder. And let's just heat that up. I'm just going to go and cut that down. So I'm going to use a bit more of my foam adhesive sheet. I'm just going to put that on the back of it. I can glue all my layers together. And then there's our completed card. That's our third card finished. Then for our fourth card, I've got an A6 Night of Navy card blank, and I've just got a piece of Night of Navy cardstock that's 1/4 of an inch smaller than the card front. And I've got some strips of gold foil sheet. And what I like to do when I've got things like cardstock, pattern paper, foil sheet, anything like that where I've just got a little bit left, I like to cut them into strips, and I'll just save them. I usually do roughly 1/4 of an inch strips, and I just save them in a bag of strips because I use quite a lot for just backgrounds like this. You've probably seen videos before where I've done herringbone type backgrounds and all sorts of things like that. So I usually find that strips are quite useful. I keep them all in a bag, and then when I need some, they're all there. And then I'm not using like full pieces of cardstock for things like this. I'm using the scraps that are left over from other pieces. I had quite a lot of gold bits left from a class I've been doing, so I thought it'd be really nice to do a navy and gold card. So I'm just going to trim the excess off at the back. And I pop that through my die cutting machine in the Parisian Flourish 3D embossing folder that we used for the first card. And then look how nice that looks now that it's all embossed. So then this time I've taken the Scripty Happy and the Blocky Birthday, and I'm just going to emboss that in gold on a scrap piece of Night Navy cardstock. So I'm just going to go and cut that down. So I'm just going to cut around the happy with my scissors. Then I'm going to glue my layers together. Then there's our fourth card complete. Then for our final card today, I've got an A6 Evening Evergreen card blank. I've got a piece of Evening Evergreen cardstock that's 1/4 inch smaller than there. And then I've just got a couple of scraps. This is Mango Melody and this is Evening Evergreen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this piece of Evening Evergreen, and I'm going to do the same with this piece of Mango Melody as well, into here. Now I'm going to take the coordinating die, and that goes like that on there. And you can feel when it's in place, it kind of almost clicks into place. And then when you've got it in place, you just want to hold it a little bit as you put it down so it stays in the right place. I'm just going to run that through my die cutting machine with the same sandwich I would use just to emboss it with this and with the Evening Evergreen. So then you can see where I did this in the green. I'm going to use the outside of this. So you get the embossing on here, but you also get the lovely embossed flowers. Because I did it in the Mango Melody as well, I'm going to use the Mango Melody flowers in there instead. You can see they're really gorgeous embossed flowers. So I'm just going to use the Bumblebee ink, one of the sponge daubers. And I'm just dabbing the sponge dauber on the ink, and then I'm just going to rub this from the middle out just to catch some of that detailing. I'm going to do that on each of our flowers, and you see it just really lifts that detailing. And then I'm just going to add one of these gilded gems in the centre of each flower as well. So then I'm just going to glue this onto my card. And then I'm going to add the flowers on with some foam pads. And I just love the depth of the embossing on this because it's a 3D embossing folder. You really get a lot of depth on it. And I'm just going to emboss the "Thanks for making me happy" sentiment. So I'm going to emboss that in gold onto a scrap of the Evening Evergreen cardstock. So I'm just going to cut that down. So I've just cut down my sentiment, and I've just got a small strip of gold cardstock as well. So I'm just going to glue the gold underneath the sentiment so it just sticks out at the bottom. Just like that. And then just going to glue that on there. stick that towards the bottom of my card. And that's our final card completed. So these are the cards that we've created today. I really hope that you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, I'd appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also click subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then you'll also get notifications every time I release a new video. All of the products that we've used today are linked in the description below, and there's also a host code there. So if you pop the host code into your basket before you check out, then I'll send you a free gift after the end of the month. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.